Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to Gentle Yoga. My name is Batya Blumenthal. I'm the branch supervisor of the Putterham location of the Public Library of Brookline. So excited to welcome you all back to Gentle Yoga. As always, our yoga program is sponsored by the Friends of the Brookline Public Library, of which they sponsor this program and programs like it. We also want to recognize our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who stream this program through their Facebook page, their YouTube page, as well as local channel 3 of RCN and Comcast. As always, participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. And with that, I give you Keith.
Hi, good morning. So I'd like to today, since I know not everybody's taken a break, but hopefully you've been practicing, but we haven't formally met on Friday mornings for, well, like 4 weeks. So what I'd like to do is work on two things, especially today. One is the breath, because it's connected so well to the nervous system. The breath really controls the nervous system in the body. That's a well understood phenomenon. And the other thing is keeping our spine moving with some ease. So I'd like to work on those two things. And let's begin with the breath. So sitting nice and tall, or if you prefer, you could always stand. You're welcome to stand if you want for this. We're going to start in our mountain pose. So to help with the breath, we need to really connect with the foundation. And the foundation is in our feet. And if we're seated, it's of course also in the sitting bones in the chair. So go ahead and feel the bottoms of the feet. Feel the sitting bones if you're seated. And then extend the spine up. So this becomes our foundation. And now we're going to think about the breath moving the belly in and out. So if you rest your palm on the navel, you'll feel the belly expanding and then going back so that the navel is moving back towards the spine as we exhale. And with the breath, we always want to be very careful, very certain that we are not straining. And what I mean by that is not trying too hard. So when we do things in a very naturally feeling way, the tension in the body is reduced. If we try too hard, we get tension in places we don't want it. And that becomes unproductive. It makes it harder for us to breathe with ease. So we want to feel like we're breathing really with ease, almost effortless, the belly going in and out. So we call this abdominal breathing. Some people refer to this as diaphragmatic breathing, because in order to get the belly moving back and forth, it really requires the diaphragm, which is that muscle just beneath the lungs. It's perpendicular. It's running this way. In order for the belly to go out, the diaphragm has to move down, and then the contents below the diaphragm push the belly out. And then as they go back, as the diaphragm goes back up and the lungs get smaller as we're exhaling, the stuff in the bottom goes back in. The stuff is our internal organs, our intestines. So not only do we get better breathing, a fuller breath, we also get this massaging, this movement of these organs. So remember, we're feeling the feet, we're extending the spine up, and at the same time, we're feeling the belly going in and out. And you might not feel each one a lot at the same time, but with practice, we start to associate the feeling, or these, what we're doing becomes, instead of thinking about doing one thing at a time, these things sort of combine so that each one helps the other. It's almost like you're doing, pressing the feet down and inhaling at the same time. You could even imagine, let's try this. Imagine that as the belly is expanding, that the breath is expanding down the legs and expanding into the soles of the feet to push the feet gently into the floor. And then as we exhale, let the breath come away from the soles of the feet. So the soles of the feet are shrinking, and then the breath is coming up and the belly is going back in. So as the belly is expanding, we're feeling the soles of the feet expanding underneath. And of course, they're not really expanding, but the visualization is a very powerful tool for the body. Extremely powerful. So once we feel comfortable with the abdominal breath, we'll work on what we call the yogic breath, or the three-part breath. It includes the abdominal, the ribs, and then they would refer to this as clavicular breathing, because the clavicle is right up here. So as we breathe in, we feel the belly. Then we feel a little lifting and opening in the ribs. And lastly, a lifting and opening in the heart. And I'm going to turn sideways. So you'll notice that the movement is most pronounced down at the belly. It's a little less at the ribs and even less up top. But there's a little bit. We're really working on feeling activity in these areas, not how much. It's not, you won't get more out of a feeling a really puffy chest. We want to encourage this wholeness, this sort of unit. These three things they're separate, but in a way they're happening together. So we want to feel some unity in the belly, the ribs expanding, and then the upper chest lifting. And then we soften and release the belly, relax the ribs, and then soften around the collarbones. So think about the movement on the exhale and the inhale to be moving up from the belly. So the inhalation starts in the belly, ribs, clavicle, and then as we exhale, belly, ribs, clavicle. So it's always moving up. And a couple more breaths like this, or a few more breaths. And we can still add the soles of the feet. So as the belly is expanding, as you're filling this whole torso with the breath, think about the soles of the feet expanding and pressing down gently. So it's a small pressing, not overly, we're not pushing down really hard. And as the feet press down, think about extending the spine up. And then as we exhale, keep the spine lengthened, and then soften the belly, soften the ribs, soften the heart and the chest. So we're inhaling, belly, soles of the feet, extending the spine up, the ribs, upper chest. Exhaling, spine is tall, softening the belly, softening the soles of the feet, softening the ribs, softening the upper chest. Now let's bring the palms together And we'll start with some yoga for the voice, something to wake the voice up. Remember when we make the sound of Om, the different sounds actually come into different parts of this around this area here, from all the way down at the base of the throat to the middle of the throat, even up into the nasal passages. At the very end, when we do the end of the Om, you might feel a little bit more up here. So notice how the sound sort of, you still get some everywhere, but you get a little more emphasis in each one of these different areas. So so remember, the Om sound for review is ah, ah, oh. So think about the shape of the mouth and feeling the voice vibrating. So sitting up tall, feeling the feet pressing down, feel the sitting bones pressing, and inhale, natural breath. Face and eyes are relaxed. Soften the shoulders, the arms and hands. Notice the beautiful silence when we stop oming. So almost like it's peaceful, Bring the palms together. We'll inhale, and arms are going to go around. So the hands are going to ride on the breath here. So we're going to work on the flexibility in the spine. And one of the ways to bring flexibility is to bring movement to different parts of the spine. So since the spine is interconnected, when one part doesn't work well, there's a tendency for the other parts to do a little too much movement, and we'd like them to be more working together so that they're all moving and they're all moving comfortably. So as we do our sun breathing, we're inhaling as the hands are coming up on the inhalation, and then the hands are floating down as we exhale. And notice there's a lifting of the heart, opening of the chest as I'm inhaling. So the shoulder blades are coming together very gently. So there's sort of a movement with the shoulder blades moving slightly back and down. They're circling back and down. Without forcing, though, we're inviting the movement. And then we'll bring the palms together. We're going to go the other way. Inhale. And then drop the hands, turn the palms up, and inhale up and around. Let's stay with that for a few breaths. You could even give a sigh on the exhalation. So it's a nice way to release tension when we sigh. And remember, the movement is following the breath, which means that we are breathing and then having the hands follow the breath rather than the breath following the hands. The breath is much more rhythmical. It actually is naturally rhythmical, the breath. When it slows down and it's calm, it has its own rhythm to it. And one last time. And then go ahead and bring the hands down. A couple of cactus breaths. So starting to get a little bit more movement in the thoracic spine. So I'm going to stand up and turn around so you can see. Watch how my shoulder blades come together. So that's what we want to feel behind us. We want to be able to feel almost like we have wings, almost like we're a bird with wings and we're flapping our wings and the shoulder blades are moving back and forth. Let's try this too. Bring the hands like this and just move the elbows back and then move them forward. So let's go back and forth like this. Notice when you move the elbows back slowly, you can feel the shoulder blades moving a little closer together. And it's easier to feel the body when we move slowly. If we're moving really fast, we don't really have a lot of time to feel what's going on. So that's why sometimes doing things slowly, we begin to feel the movement. And then if we begin to move slightly faster, we see if we can continue to feel that same movement, even though things are moving a little faster now, just a little faster. And then rest the hands and roll the shoulders. So we always want to bring our ability to feel to the various parts of the body. If we can't feel it, it's not going to. If we can't feel a part of the body, it's pretty hard to bring our attention there. It's pretty hard to get it to do what we want. Oh, change direction, please, on your circling the shoulders. So the first thing is to be able to actually feel the parts of the body. And oftentimes the toes and the feet, especially, and the shoulder blades, those areas aren't, they're not the easiest to feel. So we need to work a little bit more in those areas so that we can actually make a connection, and then they start to do what we want. It does take practice, regular practice. So doing it, if you could do it every day, ideally, but at least every couple of days or every 3 days. And let's work with the toes for a minute. So go ahead and look down. I'm going to take my sandals off here. These are my indoor sandals. They're actually they keep my feet from being so cold because the floors are so cold in the winter. Anybody who has heated floors is very lucky. And I'm going to just rest my feet and lift the toes up. Notice the rest of my legs aren't moving. And I'm going to bring my attention, and as I lift my toes up, I'm going to think about spreading them apart. So let's use our hands to help with that. We'll hold the hands out like this, and I'm going to lift up the toes, lift up the fingers, and spread the fingers apart, and then I'm going to let the fingers soften and relax. So I'm going to lift up, so my toes are lifting up and spreading, and then down. So I'm using the feeling of the spreading in the fingers and the hands to remind me of what it feels like to spread these little appendages apart. So see if you can feel it in the hands, what it feels to spread the fingers. So this is them together, and then spreading them apart. Notice there's not a lot of tension in my hands. I'm not like this, where my hands are really hard right now. It's very uncomfortable. I'm spreading them in a nice way. Being nice to my hands. So, and especially, if you're not used to a lot of tension in the hands or the exercises with the hands like this, then if you do this, it actually hurts your hands after a while. And see if you can get the toes to move a little and spread as well. Even though they're in socks, even if they're in shoes, even just the idea of them starting to move in the shoes. So remember, we're bringing our attention, we're bringing our we're making a connection with the toes. And then let's rock the feet. Feeling the bottoms of the feet. And I wanted to read this. I found this. I thought this was a really good exercise. This is from Mindfulness on the Go. So this is Mindfulness is we do things that remind us to pay attention to something. And this is called the bottoms of the feet. The exercise, as often as possible during the day, place your awareness in the bottoms of your feet. Become aware of the sensations on the bottom of the feet, such as pressure on the floor, ground beneath the feet, or the warmth or coolness. It is particularly important to do so whenever you notice yourself becoming anxious or upset. So mindfulness, or directing our attention, which our whole yoga practice is about. Let's add the hands now. Our whole yoga practice is about connecting with what's happening in our bodies and our breath. So we're rocking the feet, rocking the hands. So you could try that, whenever you, today, if you can think about, if your mind is wandering, think about feeling underneath the feet. There's always something there, either your shoes or the floor, or usually there's something there. Back and forth, and then add that circling of the hands to it. So circle the hands. And remember, you have a choice here as to how big the arms and hands are. You could have them really big like this. You could even go bigger, I guess. It does mean if you're going really big, unless you're going really fast with the arms, your feet have to slow down. But see if you can time it so that the hands and the feet are in the same place during each cycle. So when I'm coming back on the heels, my hands are down, say, around the waist. And then when I'm coming up on the toes, my hands are up here. So I'm trying to keep it in the same spot. And let's go the other way. So you could work small too. That's okay too. And let's come back to mountain pose. We're going to do the ankles and the wrists next. So go ahead and slide all the way back in the chair. And then lift the feet just off the floor, just enough so you have room to spin the ankles. And of course, if you're standing, you're going to have to sit down for this. And then back the other way. It's good to start with the hands on the knees for this. So remember, we don't want the knees to move. We actually would like the legs not to move at all, and only the ankles like this. And I want to go do like this, but it's, we're restraining ourselves a little bit, trying to keep things, dampen things down a little. It's hard for our patients to do this. It's not easy to do that. And if your knees are good, they're not moving, your knees stay in the same spot, you can add the wrists to it like this. And I'm noticing that my left foot is not working as well as my right. I'm right-handed. I'm going to slow down a little bit. Try to get the fingers and toes to point in the same direction so that when they come in, my fingers and toes are pointing in, and then they come out, they're pointing out, and around. Let's go the other way. So having them be in unison. Both feet are in unison, even though they're going in opposite directions. They're relative to each other. They're the same. It looks symmetrical, as if you had a mirror in between. Now let's rest the feet. And a little shake here for the hands, like you're shaking, like you just washed your hands. We're doing a lot of hand washing these days, and there's no towel or paper towels. You go like this, and I guess you wipe it on your pants. And let's sit up tall. So we're using the back of the chair for this one and making sure we feel supported so that the spine is elongated. So make sure there's no slumping. We don't want to slump like this. We want to be lifted. If you need support in the lumbar, you can take a small pillow and put it back behind you. You could even fold up a towel and put it back there. But we want to feel like the back of the body, the shoulder blades and the lumbar and the buttocks in the chair are supported by the back of the chair. And then we're going to lift up, point and flex a few times. Keeping the legs straight ahead. So try not to let it go out to the side. Point the toes straight ahead. So the toes are pointing like this. And let's do this with the hand like this. We're going to take the elbow, take one hand, put it on the opposite elbow to the leg that's lifted, and we're going to go down and up. It can also be fun to touch the floor with the foot and touch the knee with the hand and try to make it so they're together. Kind of looks like a karate chop. And if you wanted to have some fun with it, you could do the opposite. You could have the leg up while the arm is down and then switch them like this. And again, the rhythm is the same, but they're opposite. Now switch sides, do the other side. So first lift the foot up and then point and flex. Leg is straight, toes are pointed straight up. So there's a straightness all the way from the shoulder down out through the heel like this. And then we're going to lift up and down, and we're going to take the hand on the leg that's lifting, take that hand, put it on the elbow like this, and then we will go up and down. Go slow enough so you can keep the rhythm together. So my foot is touching at the same time my hand is touching the knee. And if you want to change it and make it the opposite, you could lift one up, and then they switch position like this. That's a little bit, it feels a little different. And at this, remember, we're still lengthening the spine here. Don't collapse. Don't collapse. So we're still taking a nice breath in, and body's moving. And then go ahead and lower down. Some leg lifting. So make sure you're scooted to adjust yourself in the chair again to make sure that you're all the way back for support. So we want to, when we lift the leg up, to still be able to extend the spine. That's very important, to be able to keep the spine lifted. As we lift the leg up, press the other foot and lift the spine up. So we're lifting the leg, pressing down, even feel the sitting bones pressing to help lift the spine up. It's as if one side of the body is lifting up as the foot is lifting up. One side of the body is lifting up as the foot is lifting up. Let's try this. Bring the hands down to the side, and then go ahead and as you lift the leg up, lift this side, the opposite side of the body up as you're raising the hand up. So try, actually rest both feet for a minute. Let's try this. We're going to lift the arm up, and as you lift the arm up, notice it's not going up too far. Think about the lifting up the whole side of the body, like they're moving up together, as if your hand was underneath the body helping to lift you up. So we want this idea of lifting and then releasing down, and lifting and releasing down. So this is going to help to teach the spine to elongate. We want the spine to feel like it's lengthening. I mean, that's the key to a flexible spine, is the length in the spine without straining. Remember, that's always key. not to strain when we do this stuff. And over time, if we keep doing these exercises, the spinal muscles become stronger and longer. And then they're better able to keep the spine erect and lengthened throughout the day. Definitely takes strength and practice. So let's go back to what we were just doing. So we're going to lengthen up as we lift the foot up. So as you lift we lift up the one foot, the opposite hand lifts up, and we're pressing the opposite foot down. So this whole side of the body is lifting up while the leg is lifting up. And the lifting on this side helps to keep the spine long. So think of it in two different parts going on. This side of the body, this side is the lifting leg. This side of the body is the whole body is moving up. We're lifting, we're supporting the spine. And then the other one is working the leg and the hips and even the abdomen here when we lift up. So we're not going to hold it, even though I was holding it there. So it's this lifting up. So try that. Think about lifting on one half of the body while the leg is lifting up. You could even, if you wanted, imagine there's a connection between the hand and the foot. And as the hand's going up, the leg it's lifting the leg up. And vice versa. As the leg is lifting up, it's helping to push the hand up. I kind of like the hanging down, though, the hand helping to lift the leg up. And a couple more times. The foot is flexing, the toes are coming back in this exercise. So there's a lengthening on the back of the leg, the hamstrings, and the calf muscle. And then let's bring the hands down. Let's roll the shoulders. And then the other way. And slide forward in the chair. So we're going to go ahead and circle around, stir ourselves around. Remembering to keep the spine long here. So I'm looking out across the room. Please don't look down at the floor. So I want to keep the spine lengthened. So the first stage is the hands are on the knees, and I'm using the arms to help control the movement. If you want more of a challenge, you can have the hands moving around in a circle like this in front. The larger you make the circle, the more you move the hands around, the more challenging it becomes. We always want to feel like the lower back is no pain or discomfort in the lower back, and we're still able to keep the spine lifted. If you can't keep the heart lifted as you're circling around, then go back to something that's a little bit, you have a little more support. Let's go the other way. You can also work with the size of the circles. It's hard to see here, but we're circling around like this. Our shoulders are. So the larger the circles, the more we lean back like this, the more effort, the more work is going on in the belly. So we need to, of course, we need to balance that with, it needs to feel okay. So if you need more of a challenge, scoot really far to the front of the chair so there's lots of room behind you, like this. And then you can go backwards more, and you're going to find there's more abdominal work going on, but no pain. If you start to lean back and there's rounding like this, then that's not working for you. And then sit up nice and tall. Take a couple of breaths. Do a few cactus breaths, and then a little hug with it. Inhaling and then hugging. And then give yourself a breathe in place, and then next time you inhale, release the arms. And then switch the other arm on top this time. Hug and breathe in place. Relax the shoulders on the exhale especially. And then inhale. And hug one last time each side. And breathe in place here. And when you breathe with the arms crossed like this, notice how the breath travels to the back of the body. And inhale, and opposite side. Because there's no place for it to go in the front. Or I should say there's less for it to go. And then inhale. So we can move the breath around in part by, if we restrict the movement in one area, it needs to move to another area. It's the same thing. Let's do this. So you're welcome to stand up for this if you want, or you can do it seated. So the opposite of that is if we interlace the fingers like this behind us, I'll give you a few choices. You can interlace the hands like this. Notice the hands are down around the buttocks and the shoulders are relaxed. You could work with the hands like this, with the fingers pointing down. You could even work with the hands on the hips. The most important thing is to feeling the shoulder blades moving slightly together, and then the shoulders are able to move down away from the ears. We don't want this. We don't want to be up by the ears. We want to be down away from the ears. And the heart is lifted without the belly sticking way out. So you may need to contract the belly, move the navel back slightly towards the spine. We don't want a big belly when we do this like this. So notice I get a big arch here. It's very hard on the back when we do that. So, but we're standing like this and then inhaling. And in this one, the breath can more easily flow into the front of the body, the chest area. But the shoulder blades, since they have moved together, there's not a lot of room for them to move into. And so the opposite of that is, let's go ahead and just go hold on to either the arms, or you can even take hold of the shoulder blades like this. Try the opposite. And inhale. And notice how it's harder to breathe into the front, but the back is more open. And then exhale. That's why I like this cactus breath with hugging yourself so much, because it moves the breath front to back, front to back. Then we're going to sit back down for a moment. We're going to do the neck. You could do this standing if you wanted. If you're tired of sitting, you could do it standing, sitting up tall, and then releasing the chin down. And then back up. Remembering not to drop the head back very much. Slight bit is okay. We don't want to, if you do it a lot, you end up getting a big bend in the neck. We don't want that. Hard on the vertebra. Our necks work so hard for us, keeping our head up. And the vertebra and the neck are so small. So lifting the chin up and down. And if you're seated, you could even close your eyes for this. So anyone who, if this makes you dizzy at all or uncomfortable, first try going slower, a lot slower. And that, if that doesn't fix it, then you should skip the exercise. We don't want to be dizzy. There's all kinds of reasons why we might get dizzy, but it's not a good thing to be dizzy. And sitting up tall and letting the head tip one side to the other. And if you want, you can let the whole body bend just a little bit. So notice that I'm dropping my shoulder slightly, so I'm getting a little bit of bend in the spine here. I also want to make sure that if I'm going to do that, I'm lengthened in the spine, and then I'm allowing the spine to bend. So it's that lengthening of the spine that helps a lot with the movement of the spine. When the vertebrae are compressed or there isn't much space between them, the discs are squashed, then it's harder for the spine to move. It's even potentially painful. If the discs are squashed, then the discs can press on the nerves either in the spinal cord or coming off of the spinal cord. Well, you've also got your pillow too. If you want, you can rest your head on your pillow. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Inhaling up, extending the spine. Exhaling, resting on the pillow. One last time on the other side. Inhale up, extend, exhale, relax, then come back up. Let's turn the head, and we're going to move the hand back and forth like this. Perhaps closing the eyes here and even slowing it down. Let's bring both hands together like this. Go ahead and move both hands so that hands are just gently touching each other, like as in prayer position, but not pressing them too hard, just so they stay together. And notice as you turn the head, how you can feel something moving around the shoulder blades and maybe even the back ribs. But the back of the body, a little bit like when we move the elbows back and the body begins to turn. So that's what's happening here, is we're getting a little more turning. The head is turning, not quite as much, but we're getting more turning here in the along the spine. And then coming back, and let's circle the head around as if you were drawing something with your nose. Think about your nose has a pen on it, and you're starting small, and then you're going to spiral out with the nose. Mindful not to drop the head backwards. A little bit is okay. And then circle back the other way. And start to make the circles smaller. And smaller. So we're drawing with something on our nose until we stop right in the middle. Let's roll the shoulders. And then the other way. So anytime you work with the arms, or if you have to do something around the house, and you have to kind of crank your head to look, or you've been talking to somebody for a long time and you're sitting like this, and when you're side by side, you end up having to turn your head. And so when you finally stop doing it, try rolling your shoulders and see if that helps bring a little bit of relief to your neck. And then sitting up nice and tall. And take a couple of breaths. I'd like to do a little bit more warm up with the breath, our yoga for the voice. So we're going to work with Brahmari. So Brahmari is that bumblebee sound, really vibrating the throat. And we've also had a chance to sort of open things up here. And so perhaps it'll be a little bit easier to take a fuller breath. But remember, we don't do it in a forcing manner, but observe and see if it's just, you can take a deeper breath and it doesn't feel like there's as much effort as usual, since we've got things kind of warmed up here and we've got things moving a little bit. So let's try that. So remember, Brahmari it's as if a bee was flying past you. In the beginning, as the bee starts to get closer, the sound increases, and then it gets to the peak when the bee is around maybe your nose. And then as the bee is flying away, the sound tapers off until it finally disappears. Think about the smoothness of the sound. So we want we want very smooth and gentle bumblebees, or whatever bee, what you can imagine, whatever bee you want. but smoothness and also not straining. So it doesn't matter if it's loud. It doesn't matter if it's soft. So let's inhale, and we're going to do it for about 30 or 40 seconds. So when we complete it, when we've used up our air and our bee is left, we take a natural breath in, and another bee flies by. So each bee flying by is associated with the inhalation. And then as we exhale, that's when the buzzing happens. So let's go ahead and let's inhale together and begin. Shoulders are relaxed. Inhale naturally and again. Inhale naturally. And last time. And pause for just a moment. So we'll do some asanas now. We're going to start with our tree pose with balancing. So go ahead and we'll do it seated first, or I'll demonstrate it seated if you know tree pose and you're comfortable with standing. Go ahead. Remember to have a chair handy. It's always good to have a chair. And always, if you're standing and you use the chair, try not to lean on the chair, but just rest the fingers on it, perhaps even just one hand like this. And if you want to progress to not using or not needing the chair, eliminate some of the fingers. So you could start out with two hands, then you could work with one hand, and then you could start to eliminate the fingers until you get to one finger, maybe even just the pinky at the end. Sometimes that extra, it's not that we're leaning, it's not that we use it like we lean on it, but that it helps us maintain our balance. That little extra information from the fingers. So sitting up nice and tall, either standing or seated, and then we're going to step one foot out to the side. We get a nice opening here. The front leg is pointed straight ahead, and sitting up nice and tall, and go ahead and turn so that the chest is facing back the way from where it was when you started. There's a little turning that happens when we open the legs like this. And go ahead and bring the foot in. And on this one, if you want to, when you're seated, you could also do tree pose with the leg extended. And you'll notice the balance is we don't get, we're now balancing more on the buttocks and the ball of the foot here that way. So you have a few choices. You have the foot like this, or you can extend the leg out and see how that feels. And then sitting up, standing up nice and tall, and reaching the arms out. So starting with the arms spread wide. If you need relief for your shoulders, try bending the elbows a little bit and dropping them. And then if you're comfortable, you can begin to bring the arms up into any position that feels right for you. And if you're standing and you're using the chair, you would just have one hand resting on the fingers on the chair and the other arm up. It'd be a one branched tree today. You could even switch branches if you wanted to make it a little more interesting. Remember to breathe and extend the spine up. And then go ahead and lower the arms down, switch sides. I'll come back to this mountain pose first for just a moment. Sit up tall. And then on an exhalation, step the other foot out. Remember to turn the body facing back towards the front, and the sole of the foot is on the inside of the leg of the chair, or if you're standing, on the inside of the calf right here. And then when you're ready, you can extend the arms, extending the spine up. Oh, and if you're seated, you can extend the leg like that. Inhaling. Feel balanced on the sitting bones if you're seated in the chair. So trying to stay vertical so that the weight is relatively evenly distributed on the sitting bones. Each time I inhale, I extend the spine. Then when I exhale, I relax the face and eyes. I soften the shoulders. And if you're seated and this is easy enough for you, you could potentially close your eyes. And if tree pose standing is really easy, you could try closing one eye first. Much harder standing with the eyes shut. You could even, let's come back down and then come back. So when we remove the eyes from the equation, or we limit our sight, it affects our balance. I think everybody knows that at nighttime, when the lights are off, it can be hard to get around. So it's definitely not as easy as when it's lit. And it's in part because of our balance, because we're unable to make that association with the things around us that our eyes help us with. So one of the things that we can do, if we want to focus, we want to start to take the eyes out of the equation. The first step would be to begin to narrow the eyes. So instead of looking fully with the lids open, we start to close the lids slightly, and we start to look out. There's some meditative techniques where we do this, where people don't actually fully close their eyes. They leave them a little slit open so they can see. But what that does is it means that we bring our attention inwards. And of course, that for balance, that makes it harder. When our attention comes inwards, inside of us, it makes it harder to balance. And of course, the hardest would be to close the eyes altogether in tree pose. That's very challenging. And I don't actually recommend it. So it's one of those things that it's hard to do. And so so you can do seated again if you want. I'm going to stand to demonstrate the standing for this time. And we're going to stand up in mountain pose, or we're going to sit in seated mountain pose. We're going to extend the spine up. We always want to lift the spine up, and then we'll go ahead and we'll step that foot out to the side. So most of my weight, if I'm standing, is on that one leg. And then I'm going to bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf. Extending the spine up and then extending the arms. Remember, you can adjust the height of the arms. Think about finding a drishti point here. So I'm looking up slightly towards the edge of the room up near the ceiling, and I'm focusing my attention on something that won't move. And it helps balance. That drishti point helps with balance. Still breathing. Make sure you're breathing and extending and focus. And then go ahead and come back down. So oftentimes we lose our balance not because of our body, but our mind wanders. And then we lose our balance. Actually, that happens in life a lot. We feel balanced and then something throws us off. And it's probably not physical, it's mental. So we're trying to think about focusing. So standing up nice and tall, mountain pose, roll the shoulders back, the arms float down, and then step the other foot out. The weight's on this straight leg, and then the sole of the foot is on the inside of the calf. Find that drishti point. You could use a drishti point even seated as well. It's to focus the mind. And then you can raise the arms up and focus on that point. Remember to breathe, extend the spine up, lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And then whenever you're ready, you can bring the arms and legs down. And let's see. Let's do this. Let's do it. We'll do it seated first. So coming back down to our chair, I'm going to turn sideways like this. And we're going to do, this is a version of Warrior One pose. So if you know Warrior One and you'd like to do it standing, you can. But we're going to step one foot back. I'm turned sideways here so you can see. So you have to slide towards the edge of the chair. And then we're going to step one foot back like this. And depending on your flexibility, you know, some people may be able to reach further back like this. Notice there's an opening here in the between the torso and the front of the thigh. And then I'm going to lift up the arms like this. So I'd start with just the hands here like this and finding a position that's comfortable. So that's really important, to be able to step the foot back and find a place that's comfortable. It's also depending on the flexibility in the front of the ankle here. You may not be able to put the foot back like this, or it may be uncomfortable. So you may want to work with the toes under like this, and you may need to adjust how far the foot is back. So you have to find what's comfortable. And then you can begin by lifting just one arm up and coming back down. So trying this, as I inhale, I'm extending the spine. So I'm lifting up, I'm pressing down so that the feet help support me and help lift me up like this. If that's easy enough, then you could do two arms like this. If that bothers your shoulders or is uncomfortable, you could work with the hands on the seat like this. And as I inhale and lift up, my hands are pressing down to help lift the spine. So this is a little bit easier on the shoulders. And let's do the other side. So for my chair, it's actually really seems to work better to even just be on the front of the chair and not even turn the chair. So I'm not even using the side of the chair. So you have to sort of try your chair out and find, how can I sit most comfortably on the chair and be able to start to step my foot back like this, whether it's like this or it's back like this. So figure that out, and then inhaling and extending. So we have the three different choices. The hands are on the chair, so finding support with the chair and then lifting up as you inhale, or using an arm as I inhale and then exhale down, or two arms as I inhale or exhale down. The stretching, the stretching in the legs that you're feeling comes from the lengthening of the spine and lengthening of the arms. Because remember, everything is connected. There's connective tissue that runs throughout the body, and each section of the body is connected with another. So when I extend the connective tissue here and here, it pulls on the connective tissue down here. So you may feel a stretching without actually stretching anything extra down there. So we're going to, we'll have to continue with that next time because we're going to be out of time. So I'd like to be able to finish close to on time. So we'll come into a seated mountain pose. And we'll add a few sun breaths here, inhaling and exhaling around. So letting the breath come back to a nice, normal, easy feeling. And then going back the other way. And then please settle back into your chair. Settle back into your chair. And begin to take a few breaths. So we want some diaphragmatic breathing here, that belly filling with the breath, and then exhaling, softening the belly, relaxing the shoulders, softening the face and eyes. Really tuning into the breath. So this will formally end our class today. Remember that if you can spend a few more minutes with the breath, even just 5 minutes, makes a huge difference in how we feel. Just to stay seated, stay focused on the breath, just turn off your device and stay for as long as you want. Keeping the body relaxed and breathing so that it becomes like a meditation. Meditating on the breath. So thank you all very much. See you next time. Namaste.
Namaste.